Hi, my name is Flip Awesome Aguilera, and welcome to WEYT, the show where I find interesting people just like you and discover what's going on between their ears. Now, let's get to know one another. What's going on, everybody? Flip Awesome Aguilera here. And today's mantra is: inciting action is often better than contributing insight. Better to move forward and figure it out than to stand still and believe you know the right answer. So get out there and continue to take action. So today I have a nice quarantine bearded fellow on the screen with me. And this is Ivan Dynamo DeJesus. And Dynamo is his name. That is your middle name, right? It's on your license. Last time I saw it.
It is.
So my relationship with Dynamo, I think, goes back several years. He's another one that came through the mastermind group. He's also head of a organization called Axen, so AXEN, which is all about taking action but being cool with it.
And the Zen of the action.
The Zen of the action. And I've learned a lot from just being around Dynamo. He was one of the people who planted the seeds for me to become Flip Awesome, because I was like, if Dynamo can be super cool, I can be super cool too. So thank you for that, Dynamo. So yeah, I've known him from Action Club, and I've just seen him grow through the years and create an energy that's doing fantastic things in the world. So much like today's mantra, he is taking the action instead of just talking about taking the action. So with that said, Dynamo, tell the people who you are, how you identify, tell them about your journey. What makes you you?
What makes me me is I believe in possibility. I believe that we are not just a static thing, an I that is going to be, the same person every day. I think we're more like a river than we are like a stone. I think we're constantly in motion and constantly trying to figure out what we are. Or actually, we're more like a drop in the river that we're going around this riverbank trying to figure out what the hell's going on in this existence. Like Flip just said, my name is Ivan Dynamo DeJesus, was raised here in Miami. I basically, at a certain point in my life, realized that my life wasn't going in the direction that I wanted. I've always been of the mindset that we create our reality. So like the name Dynamo, I was born without a middle name. My name was just Ivan DeJesus on my original birth certificate. But then when I was in college, I started introducing myself as Dynamo, especially to girls at bars, to try to seem interesting. And I was a philosophy major, so what I would get a lot was, well, what's your real name? And my response to that, to sound deep and interesting in the bars to girls, was, what is reality, right? And then they would say, can I see your license? And I would show them my license, and it would say Ivan DeJesus. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to go and legally change my name. So now my license says Ivan Dynamo DeJesus. My passport says it. My birth certificate, they issued me a new birth certificate. And now it's real, quote unquote, for people. But in actuality, it's just because I made the decision. And I really do believe that in a way we create our own reality. Like, what is reality? Airplanes seem magical if you describe it to somebody 300 years ago, right? That doesn't seem real. That's something that weighs a couple of tons, can fly in the air. And so that's kind of the premise of my life. Like I was saying, I studied philosophy in college, and I've always been a little bit of a seeker. I don't think that the common thing is kind of my thing. Like I've always wanted to march to the beat of my own drum. Right around the time I was about to hit 30 years old, I decided that, I looked at my life and it wasn't going in the direction that I wanted. There was a bunch of things that I wanted to do with my life and I just hadn't done yet. To make a long story short, I was actually really fucking depressed. I was really lost. I just, when you hit that 30 year mark, or 40 or 50, like those decade marks, you kind of, at least for me, I think they're check-in points. They're kind of mile markers. There was just a bunch of stuff that I hadn't done with my life that I wanted to do. I knew that if I were to have a group of people that were to hold me accountable, like when I would go to the gym, if I had a workout buddy, I wouldn't flake on my workout buddy, right? But if I said I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow at 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. or whatever, I would flake on myself. But if I knew you were going to be there, Flip, I'd feel too bad that I just left you hanging. So I thought, well, maybe I could do that with some of these goals. And I was really depressed at the time. I couldn't get out of bed. I was reading all the personal development, Tony Robbins, NLP, you name it, positive psychology, but I wasn't doing anything about it. So I started a group, and basically it just became a goal setting support group. And over the years, I've achieved over 100 of my goals. What's even more gratifying for me than that is that we've had hundreds of members achieve hundreds of their goals as well. So, yeah,
That's
that's
amazing.
me in a nutshell.
And I've seen it in action, you know. I've seen the people start at Axen Club, you know, kind of in the same story that you were saying. They're feeling down on themselves, and they're just looking for a way through. They come to Action, and the good thing about Action is, again, we hold you accountable. It's like, okay, this is what you say you want to do. What are you going to come in here and have done by next week, so that you can be one step closer to achieving that goal? And
Yeah.
that just has amazing results in and of itself. But I wanted to circle around to this one question that came up, because you said you were depressed, and looking back, why do you think you were even depressed?
I know why. I've done a lot of personal work besides just the self-help and personal development and reading and the goal-setting group. I've also done a ton of therapy and different retreats. And what I've gotten to the core of is that I felt that I had to be a different person than who, like, instinctively I know that I am. So I felt like I was living somebody else's life. I'm a child of immigrants. I was told I needed to be a doctor or a lawyer, and that this is how the world is, and that I couldn't be an artist. And I wasn't. It wasn't okay for me to just be who I was. I felt intrinsically somehow I was broken. The whole thing of Dynamo came from when I was a little kid, when I was 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. I was born here in the United States in Miami, Florida. My parents got divorced when I was 1.5, 2 years old. So I lived in the Dominican Republic a lot with my grandmother. But I was really shy. I spoke Spanish only, but I was just a shy, contemplative kid. I was really artistic. I didn't want to go play outside. I just wanted to draw and watch cartoons. I'm an only child. So that was who I was. Everybody used to like make fun of me and call me slowly because I was so reserved, to the point where my mom even started calling me slowly and like, you got to wake up, you got to be more dynamic, tiene que ser más dinámico, tiene que ser más dinámico. And then they used to make fun of me because my mom would say I got to be more dinámico, because that's dynamic in Spanish. So I took ownership of it. Calling myself Dynamo was basically a big middle finger to like, I'll show you, I'm going to be the most dynamic person ever. But that just was an oscillation. It was an overcompensation for a deep insecurity. And that deep insecurity, after I've achieved hundreds of goals and all that stuff, it doesn't mean shit. It left me feeling empty still. And so a lot of the self-work, and the reason why it's important to do goals and to do things out there, is because I think the way that our personality is formed is a reverberation, an echo, kind of like a dolphin uses sonar, or a bat uses echolocation. Yeah, I think that's how we form our personality. It's not independent of the world. We're co-creating it with the feedback we're getting in the world.
Yeah, with the cause and effect of the world.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
like you were saying with the river. You know, the rock in the middle of the river is the cause why the river is going, is, you know, the way that it's going. But the rock needs to be there for the river to get carved the way it does. So there's a cause and effect that then leads to another cause and effect, and a cause and effect, and till you are who you are.
That's right.
All right. Awesome. So thank you for those explanations. And now with this very, let's call it intriguing time that we are living in, I'd like to know what's been engaging your thoughts.
We're in an era of deep uncertainty with the coronavirus, with Black Lives Matter, with the police brutality, with all these things. And so on the outside world, there's a lot of chaos. That's also led to a global self-reflection, and especially here in the United States, a deep self-reflection within the nation. But also that's kind of been where I've been at personally. I did a 10-day silent meditation. It's one of the things for my bucket list.
Okay.
I've done skydiving, rock climbing, got my scuba certification. I've done a bunch of things, but one of the things that I wanted to do, I plan out my year in terms of what I want to learn. Like I learned how to solve a Rubik's Cube. I have it here. And, that was
Algorithms.
something I did. Huh?
Algorithms.
Yeah, exactly. I learned the algorithms. I memorized it. One of the things was I started the year, one of my goals was I wanted to do this vipassana meditation. And vipassana is a 10-day silent meditation retreat. It's free. You can go. If you don't have any money, you can go. They'll feed you and they'll house you for 10 days for free. Past students have paid for future students. If you feel called to give a donation to pay for the next generation of students, you do so. If you don't have any money, you don't. I just hadn't had the time to carve out 10 days out of my schedule to be able to do it. And I did, and it really helped. I mean, when have you ever flipped? When have you ever, or anybody listening, been 10 days, no talking, no eye contact, no cell phone, no TV, no music, nothing, meditating 12, 14 hours a day? There is instruction, but and if you have a question, you can ask the instructor at a specific time during the day. But really, for 10 days, you're not interacting with anybody. That's how I started my year. I went December 27th through January 7th. So I spent New Year's there. It was incredible. And I feel like this year has been an extension of that. Even though all the chaos is around, it's been a year of self-reflection. 2020 has been, I believe, for the world, an opportunity for us to really look like, what are we doing where we don't have a better plan for healthcare worldwide? Because obviously we're all connected. I know it would make sense if we were fish. We would understand like, hey, holy crap, we're infecting the water. We live in the water. That's stupid. But because we don't see the air because we're human, we think that, oh, that person's over there, I'm over here. We don't have anything to do with one another. No, stupid. Air is the same as water. There's a substance between me and the other person, and we all breathe in the same thing.
Yeah.
Except it's invisible to us the same way I'm sure water is invisible to a fish.
Yeah.
And so it's, I believe, an opportunity for us to kind of raise our consciousness, which was the point of me going to meditation. And a lot of the stuff that I do at this point, it's not about achieving the goals. It's about who I'm becoming in achieving the goals and what I'm discovering about myself. So to answer your question, what I've been doing is continuing to deepen that reflection.
And what would you say was the top thing that you got out of being in the Vipassana meditation, aside from going on the journey that's helping you become who you are?
Yeah, I believe this is not unique to me. I think this is a universal concept. And the concept is that each one of us, and myself included, we are the heroes of our story, but we're also the villains.
For sure.
And I was able to sit and see how I've really been self-righteous, narcissistic, arrogant, how I've been small to myself and to others. And I was able to step outside of my point of view, really connect with how I just show up. Yeah, it's incredible just sitting with yourself for that amount of time and doing this meditation, where basically all the meditation is. I'm not ruining anything for you. This is, they say it on the website. The first few days, you're just concentrating on your breath. That's all you're doing for 3 days. Then the rest of the time, the other 7 days, what you're doing is you're just scanning your body for sensations in your body. And the reason they're called feelings is because you actually feel them in your body. You have a sensation in your body of what it feels like when you get butterflies, when you see somebody you're really attracted to, or like when you were in middle school and you saw that girl you liked in between classes, or that feeling when you get really afraid because maybe you're afraid of public speaking and your throat tightens up. All those things, we numb ourselves by flipping through our phones or caffeine or drugs or whatever to not feel our feelings. And so I was able to kind of delve into my own feelings, and I still have a lot of people that I need to apologize to for just how I've acted and how I've been self-protective. And I don't know, I think it's very easy for me or for all of us to get stuck in our perspective. And even with what's going on in the world now, I mentioned Black Lives Matter and everything going on. the world's in pain. I think that the it's a difficult job to be in law enforcement. It's a difficult job to be a black man in America. Leading with empathy is really important. I think that's what kind of I got, was that I was able to have compassion for myself and for other people, including people that I thought had done me wrong or that were being unfair to me. And I realized how I had been unfair to them. Really recommend it for everyone. I recommend Vipassana. It's in the top 2 to 3 things I recommend for everyone to do.
And this was your first Vipassana experience.
Yeah,
So if
correct.
you were to do other ones, they would probably manifest themselves in a bit of a different way because now you have an experience that you can tie it to. So this being your first experience, how long did it take before just the chatter of the mind started to get into some sort of check, if it did at all?
It was not a Yeah, no, I felt like the mind stopping is probably as frequent as there are like lunar or solar eclipses. Like
Yeah.
for the most part, it's
Yeah.
the sun and the moon constantly going, and there's one or the other in the sky. Sometimes there's no moon, but it's still stars and nighttime, and so
Yeah.
that's how the mind works, I believe. I think that there are people that reach enlightenment and their mind just stops chattering. But I think a lot of creativity evolutionarily, I think there's a reason why the mind does that. It's just that it's our prefrontal cortex is the most recent evolutionary part of our brain, and it's what's made us the apex species on the planet. But at the same time, there's a certain side effect. Not all of us know how to control this new development of the mental chatter, and it does mess with us. So yeah, there's a lot of rumination that I had and still have to a degree that led to some of the depression that I used to have, a lot of regret, a lot of like reliving scenarios over and trying to see what I could have done differently. I went in there very stressed and I came out of there realizing that, I'm going to be fine no matter what, and I can't really experience anything else than what I can experience right now in this moment. And so
Exactly.
realizing that all those memories and all those conversations and all the things that are happening, they're all happening right now in this moment. And I know intellectually we get that,
Yeah.
but how many times, I mean, I don't know, somebody cut me off the other day in traffic and was like being super rude. And I was still brooding over that an hour later, where, it happened 5 seconds, 3 seconds, not even 2 seconds. And I was still carrying it for an hour. Right.
Yeah.
And so I guess what the meditation has taught me is that, kind of like that, there's a saying by the Buddha where pain is when an arrow hits your arm. Suffering is when you've taken out the arrow, the wound is healed, but you continue to relive the arrow being in your arm.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what I got from it. I think the only thing to do is compassion at this point.
And speaking of pain, how has your relationship with pain grown over an experience like the one you had?
Well, I do believe that over the course of time, I've realized that a lot of my personal suffering has come from trying to avoid pain. I'm personally, when I studied philosophy, I really was, what made me get that degree. I got a degree in philosophy, was Socrates and a lot of like the Greek philosophers. And Temple of Delphi, there was written on the wall at the entrance, "Know thyself." Right.
Yeah.
I believe pain is a way of knowing yourself. In large part, I've been avoiding feeling pain probably my entire life, more so than I have in wanting to express who I am or create things. Like I said earlier, my parents were immigrants and they told me I had to be a doctor or a lawyer, and I wanted to be an artist, and I felt like self-denied, like rejected by them, and that I had to be this dynamic guy because I was called slow when I was little, and I had to like overcompensate and all this. And it was kind of like me just avoiding the pain of, my parents wanted me to be different than who I was. And I just had to accept that, I'm not that. And I think I've gone through a lot of jumping around to try to like prove that I'm different than that and try to avoid the pain of like maybe their disappointment. And I realized that what I use to avoid the pain is worse than the actual pain itself. It's kind of like taking a medication that's like the side effects are worse than the actual, you
Yeah,
know,
disease.
disease. Yeah. I read a book by David Goggins called Can't Hurt Me. And I had already known about David Goggins because I read Jesse Itzler's book, Living with a SEAL,
Yeah,
and where he lived with the Navy SEAL for 30 days, and this Navy SEAL was like nuts, like ran crazy amounts of miles, did
yeah,
pull-ups, and was like just bananas. And so I found out who that was, and I followed him like online and just read articles about him. And this guy runs like 200-mile races and does all this crazy stuff. He wrote a book called Can't Hurt Me, and I remember being on the elliptical machine in the gym, and I work out, but you know, I work out here and there, and I'll do 20 minutes of cardio on the elliptical, and I'll lift weights and stuff. I'm no Navy SEAL. And when I was listening to this guy's book, he said that when he did his first 100-mile race, he realized that he had made a decision that he was willing to die on that track, and that he didn't want to live knowing that he could have left more, that he let pain dictate his life instead of him dictating his life, instead of David Goggins dictating his life. And I
yeah,
found that so inspirational. I just felt like I do not want to die not knowing what I'm capable of. Because that's basically what he was saying, is that
yeah.
he wanted to know how far he could push himself. And that's how he was going to get to know himself, through going through pain and being on the precipice of like not being able to bear it and being able to transcend that. And it sounded almost like spiritual. And I was on the elliptical machine and I was getting like emotional. It was a Tuesday morning, and I was like, I'm doing 100 miles. Mind you, I don't run.
Yeah, we ran a few months. We ran that January 5 miles
Yeah,
with Shaka.
yeah, exactly. I run like here and there. I can probably get through a 10K, but I'm not a marathon runner. Nothing close to that. I said on Tuesday I'm going to run 100 miles, and that Friday at midnight I started running 100 miles. I failed. I was able to get 60 miles in 24 hours because I cramped up. I wasn't prepared. I didn't
Yeah,
know what to eat. I wasn't hydrated properly,
you
but I
just
didn't
went.
quit.
You went off pure adrenaline and inspiration.
Well, I said, fuck it. I'm either going to die or I'm going to finish. I don't care how long this takes me. If it takes me all week, I'm going to finish. And I was able to do the 100 miles. It took me 48 hours, a little under 48 hours, like 46 hours. But I did it. I had all kinds of injuries. My feet looked like freaking, I don't know, ground beef. And I cramped up. I'm like, yeah, all kinds of problems. Yeah, I did it. And it was like a spiritual pilgrimage. And so I continue to look to do things that hurt, that create either emotional, uncomfortable, like going to a 10-day silent meditation retreat.
Yeah.
You know, like that's uncomfortable, especially on a New Year's. I'd rather be with my girlfriend or with my family, you know, with my mom and grandma and stuff. I believe that there's something that I can discover within myself, that I can be a better boyfriend or a better friend or a better son if I'm willing to go through the pain of seeing my defects and willing to kind of purify myself in that way.
So just to wrap up this whole pain thing. So, I am in the holistic space training, getting people out of injury and things like that. And one of the things that I think I've realized is, number one, we have a vast misunderstanding of what pain actually is in the actual science of pain. And one of the things I always like to tell clients is pain is ubiquitous, but instinctively, you know the difference between a good ouch and a bad ouch. How can you embrace the good ouch? When you work out and you're sore, that's a good ouch. But if you work out and you're sore and, 5 hours later, your back is like, and it's starting, that's a bad ouch. So, okay, what do we need to do? The pain is telling you something. It's telling you, okay, you broke your muscles down. We got to repair those so they're better. But something over here is not working the way it's supposed to. And we need to find out what that is and listen to that pain instead of numbing it and getting rid of it, so that we can find out how to integrate it back into the whole and make it work again. I think as a culture, we need to understand that pain is ubiquitous. We need to tell people there is no such thing as no pain. Even if you
Yeah.
sit down on your butt all day and you're sedentary, you end up having pain because your body's telling you, oh, I'm not moving enough. And it's going to let you know by getting stiff and all that stuff. So pain is ubiquitous. So what do you think of that thought and how we can become more comfortable with that?
Well, I think some of the most beautiful things in life come on the other side of pain.
Yeah.
If you have kids, I don't have kids yet, but I know people that have had kids, and I mean, everybody understands what a woman goes through to bring a life into the world. It's birthing pains.
Yeah.
And on the other side of that is this beautiful new creation.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that I mean, just looking at nature, it's part of what it is. It's called growing pains for a reason. There's pain in all kinds of things. I mean, as being in fitness like you are, you can't have muscle growth without hypertrophy, is it what it's
Yeah.
called?
Yeah. Muscle building.
Yeah, and that's essentially tearing and breaking down your muscle so that it can repair itself and grow. That's really what nature is a constant ripping away and building back up, you know?
The thing is, you can build in either way. You can build towards your potential or away from it.
Yeah.
And one of the other concepts that I went over with somebody, you tell me how it resonates with you because you just went to a 10-day retreat or you came out of that. And a lot of people would say, oh, that, you need to sit in stillness like that. I've had this thought about stillness because we live in a world that's dynamic. So even if you sit still, everything around you has moved. So therefore, you moved, right? Because nothing is where it was when you sat in that stillness. So I do understand what stillness means, what they're trying to say by the concept of, you need to be able to basically do what you did. Look at the pain you've caused, look at the pain that you've endured, and, come to some sort of peace with it, if that's what you choose to do with it. But just the concept of stillness, I don't know if that is an actual thing.
No, no, it's not. I mean, it's like Heraclitus said, you don't ever step in the same river twice.
Exactly.
As soon as you step into the river, the atoms and the droplets and the molecules of water that you stepped into, if you step out of the river, that water has already come and gone.
Yep.
So when you step into the river a second time, it's a different river.
It's a different
And
river.
even this reflection or the audio of what we're talking about, it's imperceptible to us, but it's traveling at a speed that may seem instantaneous, but it's only because of our context and our relativity. But in actuality, there is a slight delay,
Yeah.
even so minuscule that it's imperceptible to us. But there is no such thing as stillness. Everything is constantly moving. What I've learned is that all we're looking to do, and the reason the organization that I run is called Axen, is because everything is an action, right? Like there is something about taking action. Even the monks that go to the top of a mountain to meditate and seek enlightenment, they're doing something. They're going to the top of a mountain and they're sitting down and they're closing their eyes and they're reflecting. They're taking some form of action. Albert Einstein said, nothing happens until something moves.
Yep.
He couldn't explain the universe until there was an initial cause that started the chain of effect, causality of things.
Yeah.
And even in quantum mechanics, I know that's like the big thing with quantum computing and all the things that are going on with that, there still needed to be some initial motion. They don't know if it was just a random event or quantum
That's
phenomena
up for
that
discussion and debate.
Yeah, but there was something that began, and everything has cascaded from that original beginning. So action is important, but also the zen of that action, the reflection, is just as important. So like, I think the best we can approximate is that when there is stillness, all we're really doing is changing our focus, changing the lens of our focus, because it's impossible to actually be still.
All right. Well, now let's go on to the next. They're not rapid fire questions, but they're just questions that we're going to ask, and however long it takes us to answer them,
Awesome.
it takes. So, who would you like to speak to, dead or alive?
I would like to speak to Jesus.
Okay. Why would you like to speak to Jesus?
I'm not particularly religious, but I've grown up in the West. My last name is DeJesus.
Of Jesus.
of Jesus, yeah, de Jesus in Spanish.
Yeah.
You know, I think historically, whether you believe in God or not,
Yeah.
or you believe in Christianity or not, I just think in a larger way, I mean, our calendar is based off of this guy in the West. And so, and it's one of the predominant religions in the West. And so I think it'd be just an interesting conversation.
What are some of the resources that have inspired you the most?
Psychedelic drugs. I think that our consciousness, it was one of the things on my bucket list. I didn't really believe that you could take a substance and that this wall would turn into a bunch of butterflies and come and envelop me and then fly off into infinite space. Yeah, no, it does. It's real. Perception of reality is paper thin, and a chemical can change reality. And so it gave me a lot more empathy towards people that are mentally ill. Sometimes, like when I'm walking around and I see a homeless person and they're just staring off at at a bush, and they're just staring at the bush, and they're there like for 5, 7, 10 minutes just staring at a bush, and they look like they're not mentally there. I just believe that it just gives me an appreciation for everybody is perceiving reality so differently. So for me, that really helped me create some humility in myself, and also awoke some things in me. That's one of the resources that's really inspired me to kind of just be humble and be more curious.
If you could go back and talk to your 18-year-old father, what would you tell him?
Ooh, that one was a curveball. I like at the end, I thought it was going to be my 18-year-old self, but my 18-year-old father. You know, a long time ago, I would have probably said my father was killed in Puerto Rico when I was like 11 years old, 10, 11 years old. He was involved in drugs, like selling drugs and stuff like that. And I just spoke about psychedelic drugs.
Yeah.
I never did drugs until I was in my 30s, because I had a cousin that had a really bad drug problem, like at an early age. He was addicted to crack and pills.
There was no positive examples of drugs in
Yeah,
your life.
exactly. And so when I did it, I was already a man, and I knew I was just gonna do like the psychedelic thing to kind of like open my consciousness, and that's very different than like cocaine or crack or hard drugs like the heroin. For years, I think I would have probably said something to the effect of telling my dad to be more responsible, that he has all the potential in the world and all the charisma in the world, and that if he just applies himself and keeps integrity, he could really like live longer, like avoid trouble, and also be a better man and a better example to his children. I'm an only child, and he had 6 kids.
Oh, wow.
We're all only children, because he would have one child with one woman, and he did that 6 times. And so I would have probably years ago said something about being more responsible, but actually I wouldn't say anything to my father. He was perfect the way he was, and I've made peace with. I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't have the relationships that I have with my mom, with my grandmother. I wouldn't have wanted him to die, but I've made peace with who he was. I think I would just, if I could go back, I would see him from a distance, or if somehow I could just give him a hug and not say anything, I would do that.
Are you still in contact with any of your siblings?
Yeah, I'm in contact with a few. When you grew up without a dad, because he wasn't really around.
Yeah.
He died when I was 10, 11 years old, but he wasn't around much. I think I saw him most out of all the kids, because he lived here in Miami for the most part. And the other kids lived all over, like in, New York and Dominican Republic, where we're from. I keep in touch with a few, and I've made peace with it. And I didn't really grow up with them. I didn't really have a relationship, and for years I think I had like some resentments. I never wanted to reach out, but yeah, now I do. I just spent, my dad's mom just turned 90, and we went for her birthday. I went like a few months ago and some of my brothers were there, and yeah, it was cool.
So are there any questions you'd like to ask me?
Yes, actually. Flip, what is the reason that you want to get up tomorrow morning?
Well, first, I want to figure out all this pain that I have that I'm trying to learn how to release.
You have
Specific.
pain?
Well, I have pain in my hips. And every
Mm.
day since this quarantine has started, the one thing that I've done consistently is do yoga, because that's the movement where I can feel the pain the most, but I also feel the most release from that pain. So there's obviously something in that movement that I need to do so that my body begins to adapt to being able to have that movement, and I can't expect it to just, again, heal itself overnight, because that's what I would tell one of my clients, like, you didn't get this way overnight. It's going to take some time. So I guess the things that make me get up every day is trying to figure out the puzzles, because
I have a
much like
question about.
you, I'm a
Mhm.
seeker and I'm curious, and I want to see if I can solve some of these Tetris puzzles.
This pain, have you gone to see if there's something mechanically wrong, or do you think it might be like emotional, or like, because
I think
I'm not that woo woo where I'm like, oh, it's whatever, but I think that stress over something, or and it's gonna lock up your muscles, and
yeah.
if you lift weights, it's gonna create
Well,
some type of
to
injury.
your point earlier, you were talking about your meditation and how you feel feelings.
Yeah,
And it makes me think of what emotion stands for. Like,
yeah,
emotion, if you break it up, is energy and motion.
yeah,
And what are feelings but energy and motion?
yeah,
There's something instinctive inside of me that tells me that my left thoracic spine, the tightness that I feel there, is emotional. I don't know if but it's just something instinctive. And it makes me feel like, for that, I probably need to continue to do inner work. Number one. Number two, maybe go to an acupuncturist. So just so that they can get the energy to flow again through there. And then from there, I can try to tell my brain, or do the motions like, okay, now that it's loose, it's okay for it to be loose. It's okay for it to be loose. And then when that loosens up, will it bring out that emotion that has been hidden in there that I've been trying to discover? And because it's in the same place. And the reason that I feel that it's emotional is that when I go look for it with soft tissue work, it moves around too fast. It's not like my hip. Like my hip, I can, right here, I can feel the knot. And I can feel how it's entangled a little bit with the nerve, and how I
yeah,
gotta just kind of get them
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah,
unadhere.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
that one in my back, it feels like it's in a specific place, and when I go to that place, it disappears, and it like moves around, and it's like, that is something deeper than just structural mechanical. So again, I want to figure that out,
yeah.
and that'll make me get up, because if I can figure it out for me, that means I can try to be the example for others. Like, look, you got to do the inner work, but if you do it, we can get you to a better place. But we
Yeah. Have
have
you
to
heard of a
listen
book?
to the pain. We have to listen to the
Yeah. Have
pain.
you heard of a book called The Body Keeps the Score?
I have not. The body keeps the score. Let's write
Yeah,
it
it's
down.
by a Harvard neurologist. I believe he's a neurologist. I forget the name of the author, but it's an excellent book. And basically, what it is, it's all these Eastern methods of like approaching things, or things like, there's a lot of research and a lot of things that have come up, like tapping or
Yeah.
acupuncture, or for example, there's this thing called EMDR, which is eye movement
Yeah. Yeah.
desensitization. I did it. I went to a therapist, and basically I was able to go. You asked me about my father and what I would do, the 18-year
Yeah.
old. So, and I carried a lot of that resentment. It didn't show up for me physically, but it showed up to me, like, for me emotionally, like a
Yeah.
depression and stuff like that. And basically all EMDR is that they put their hand a few inches away from your face, and they, like, somewhere in the vicinity of 6 to 8 inches away from your face, and they ask you to relive the situation after doing a little bit of talk therapy, 1 or 2 sessions of talk therapy. Then they don't talk to you. They just tell you, relive the scenario, but look at my hand as you're reliving the scenario. And they've done this with people that have experienced PTSD, and like in war, or from car accidents and things like that. And it has a significant ability to have somebody relive the experience in a different way.
Yeah.
And all they're doing is waving their hands in front of your face. And so they don't really understand exactly how it works. They think that it has to do with rapid eye movement and
Yeah.
dreams. This book, The Body Keeps the Score, that's one of like probably like 3 dozen different therapies that they talk about. That's kind of just now being discovered as relevant, and it just hasn't reached critical mass. And a lot of basically all these different therapies kind of point to is that your body, our brains aren't the only place where emotional trauma or emotions or stress lives. It's in the back, in the
Yeah.
hips. A lot of physical ailments are psychosomatic. Again, it's written by a Harvard neurologist. I think he is. He's either a psychiatrist or a neurologist. This guy isn't a quack. Like,
The thing is, when it comes to terms like quack,
yeah,
and in my 20s, I was more of a hardcore atheist, and I used to
yeah,
be like, if it wasn't science, it's stupid.
yeah. Same here.
But as I've grown, I've realized when you're a quack, what that means sometimes, because sometimes people really are just quacks.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times when you're a quack and you've had some results, it just means you're on the frontier of something. And when you're
Mm,
on the frontier, you're gonna get as many things wrong as you do right. Maybe even more
mm,
things wrong, because you're trying to discover and you don't know.
yeah.
You're like, where do I need to go? Where do I need to go? There's something here, but I don't know where. The only way you figure that out is to follow your quackery until you get a clearer answer. As I've gotten older, I've gotten a lot more open to what just about anybody has to say, because it's like, hey, are you getting a result with what you're doing?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that in and of itself is interesting. Even if it's an n equals 1, 5, 10, you're getting some sort of result. So whatever you're doing, even if it's psychological, placebo,
Yeah. The
it's
placebo
something.
effect is a real thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. And if you
Yeah.
tell somebody that feels 80% like crap, I can make you feel 30% better just by giving you this thing that you think is going to make you feel better. That's still better. And you
Yeah.
don't know what you're going to get out of the journey of being just 30% better. Is that going
Yeah.
to
For
lead to
sure.
more? But I did have an idea while you said this, being that you are the head of Axen. Maybe we can put some sort of little group together, because there's going to be a lot of PTSD coming out of nurses that have gone through this COVID experience. Maybe we can put together some sort of task force and be like, let's help you before it becomes a real problem.
Absolutely. We look at the obesity problem in the United States, but the problem that's really not being talked about, or it is being talked about in terms of mental health, but the taboo around mental health and a lot of the things around psychology and people's ability to okay with their emotions. I think that's or the trauma that's kind of just expected for people to handle. Police officers. I know that's one of the things
Yeah.
that
I think it
uh,
comes full circle with that.
yeah, I mean, they become desensitized when
Yeah.
you're dealing with people that are disrespecting you, or criminals that are lying or doing these things. You tend to, once you put on that armor of like the badge and carry your gun, you there's been a lot of studies on how power
Yeah, it gets to
works,
you.
and how it gets to anybody. I
Yeah.
mean, Lord of the Rings is about that, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think it was Abraham Lincoln. I don't know who it was that said this, but I know the quote. It's like, power absolutely corrupts. Absolute power corrupts
Corrupts
absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I see that in myself. I see that in myself. I see how, like, when I've had little bits of power, I start to get full of myself in a weird way. Not like horrible,
Yeah.
but like, if I'm being really honest, I start to think like, I don't know, like I know better, when actually I don't know shit. None of us do. We're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So that is a very interesting thing that happens to us.
yeah,
It's kind of like the whole prison experiment, right? Where
yes, that's
you
exactly
give
right.
people that power and they just go take it. That's a discussion that'll take a whole other podcast. So
Yeah.
let the people know where they can find more Dynamo, more Axen, more
Well, I'm
all the.
launching a website where we're gonna have Axen, which is axenclub.com, AXEN club, CLUB.com. We are going to have a website where you're going to be able to sign up. You're going to be able to talk to people about your goals. It's going to have a schedule where at a certain time you're going to get together with a group of other people, And AA is for people that have an alcohol problem, or NA is for people that have a narcotics problem. And you get together in those support groups to talk about your substance abuse problem. Axen Club is for people that have a goal and need some accountability and have a procrastination problem, or
Yeah.
who just want to be a part of a community to figure how to do things, or just want to get involved with some really cool people. So that's going to be online. And then one of the extensions of that is we're also going to have accountability calls where it's going to be almost like a Zoom, but you're going to sit down and have like an accountability session where at the beginning of like a 2-hour session, you say what you're going to do. You're going to have somebody in the video through the Axen Club website. 2 hours later, they'll ask if you did it or not, and you're sitting there in front of your laptop doing the work. So you can reach out to me through that website. My email is dynamo, DYNAMO, at axenclub.com. You'll also see my profile. The website's a lot like Facebook. Everybody has profiles, so you can find other Axenites. That's probably the best way to reach me. But I do have a question for you, Flip.
Yes.
So you said that you're getting up tomorrow morning with the goal of seeking what it is that this pain is about. And it's funny, I just spoke to a therapist, and he's very big on like masculine and feminine energy and all that. And the hips, our core,
The
and all that,
chakra.
yeah, has a lot to do with like our either our masculine or feminine energy. So, is there a part of you that feels frustrated or stunted in one of those two areas?
Sure. I have to do deeper work. Maybe that's it. And maybe it's just the ebb and flows of relationship, because I'm in a great relationship, but that doesn't mean I don't get frustrated at it sometimes. But that's just superficial. When you're talking about a masculine and feminine energy, that's a deeper thing. That's the yin and yang of life, because we all have a masculine and feminine energy.
Yeah.
I don't think I have a problem being in touch with either side of them. There is a puzzle that I need to figure out, and I need to listen to that pain until I can get it to dissipate, until I heal. So I guess what gets me up in the morning, more than figuring it out, is just the healing, is
So
learning
what would
how to
happen
heal.
if you were to heal that? What's on the other side of that healing? What's on the, we talked about pain earlier.
Yeah.
What's on the other side of that pain? So it sounds like you're going to have to go through the pain of whatever
Yeah.
it
Well,
is.
there'll be relief. I won't feel that
Mhm.
pain anymore, because I
Mhm.
feel that whatever that is, sometimes it doesn't allow me to even sleep well at night. I feel it radiating from
Oh
the
man.
left side of my mid back into my hip, down my leg. I feel it. And I do the soft tissue work, and sometimes I get spots and I can feel it radiating through the whole thing. Interestingly enough, at the beginning of the year, because I start the year, I do a fast for a few days. And this year, after my fast, I did some mushrooms, 5 grams. I went large. And I went to my friend's house who lives on the beach. We did it together. He was like, if there's anybody I would do it with, it's you. So we did it together.
Yeah.
And just standing on the sand and massaging my feet, I felt the relief of the hip going all the way up to that part of my back into my shoulder, just massaging my feet in certain ways on the sand when I was at the peak of that journey.
Mm.
And I felt it. So number one, I was being grounded. So maybe I need more grounding. And just again, I was just moving my feet kind of side to side, massaging it into the sand, and specific parts, specifically on the outer part of my left foot, I would just hit a spot there that would literally radiate all the way up the whole thing, but it would radiate relief. It was like undoing. And I did that for hours, just standing there looking at my wife and my friends saying, wow, if you guys could just feel what I'm feeling. And of course they're like, yeah, that's because you're freaking,
Yeah.
out there in the universe. And I'm like, well, the universe is telling me this is what I need right here to get this relief.
That's great, man.
I'm trying to
Great.
discover.
I have some connections for you. I have some people that maybe if you were to talk to, they'd be able to help. That one of them specifically uses neurolinguistic programming for back pain,
Yeah.
and then another that is a therapist that I've been working with, and that's why I asked about the masculine and feminine energy.
Yeah. I'm willing to discover.
Yeah.
I'm
Great.
always willing to discover, because you
Yeah,
never know.
that's one of the things that I love about you, Flip.
Awesome.
One of the many.
And that's what we need, is to spread more love.
Mhm.
So for all of you people listening out there, if you think this episode was awesome and amazing, please like and share it. You can find more episodes of WEYT on YouTube at WEYT Show, Facebook, WEYT, WEYT, Instagram, WEYT Show, again, WEYT. And with that, I'd like to close it by saying the same thing I say at the end of every episode, and that is time and attention is the greatest gift we can give to each other. So thank you for your time and attention, Dynamo. Thank you for your time and attention, universe out there watching the show. And here's to spreading more peace, love,